Charter School with This Week in History, specifically the week of August the 9th through 15th. Well, if you remember, last week I mentioned to you a young lady who had quite a career before she became famous. Now, I don't know if any of you recognize her from this particular photograph, but this is Miss Julia Child. Julia Child, on August 13th of 2004, died, where she is most famous for her mini cookbooks and various television shows that ran for over 30 years. The kitchen set for her three different series, that she used for three different series, is now in the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. She is absolutely an icon, Miss Julia Child. What is lesser known, though, is the service that she performed during World War II. She tried to join the Women's Auxiliary Service for the Army and the Navy, but she was rejected because she was too tall, which I don't know why. She was 6'2". She was a tall woman, but I don't really understand that one. But she ended up joining, though, the Office of Strategic Services, which is the father of the CIA, where she became a very trusted research assistant. She eventually ended up in what is today Sri Lanka, and later in Kunming, China. That is her with some other OSS types, spy types. She was involved in cataloging and passing on thousands of very top secret documents. So she got to see some stuff that, for the most part, unless you had 5 stars on your shoulder, or you were the secretary of something, probably very few people ever saw. But she was also involved in coming up with rescue kits and other paraphernalia for various agents. Her first foray into cooking, though, also happened during this time. The Navy was having a shark problem. They would lay mines for German U-boats or for Japanese shipping. Sharks would become serious, they'd bump up against the mines, and they had a tendency to detonate. Also, of course, you have the problem of downed flyers, sailors, etc. And so they were trying to figure out some way of solving this. So this was actually her first cooking assignment. She and 2 zoologists went out into the field trying to find something that would work as a shark repellent. What they ended up coming up with was a mixture of copper, and it was a black dye made from plant material that was rated to be 60% effective for about 7 hours or so. Later, another dye was added to it so it would show up a little bit better in the water. And this stuff was used all the way through the Gemini program in space, because apparently they had problems. They actually pulled some of these capsules out and found where sharks had bitten some of the heat-resistant tiles. So that's Miss Julia Child. On August the 12th of 1896, this spot right here, Dawson City, became a very, very important place. The region around it as well was known as the Klondike, so Western Canada, Eastern Alaska. The reason why it became so famous, August the 12th, 1896, was because of the discovery of gold, the Klondike Gold Rush. This is when the news reached back the outside world, I guess you'd say. Like most gold rushes, very, very few actually struck it rich. 100,000 people, it is estimated, attempted to reach the gold fields in the first year. About 30,000 did. Somewhere around 4,000 or so ever found any gold whatsoever. And very, very few of them actually got rich. However, like all gold rushes, the fortunes that were made were usually made by people who mined the miners. That was how you made money. The Klondike is a very harsh, isolated place to this day. Trust me, I know. It was expensive. It's expensive then. It was even more so, or it's been more expensive then than it is now, and it's extremely expensive today. The one miner that was craving news of the outside world so bad paid $17 for a month-old Seattle newspaper that was soaked in bacon grease. Every miner needed about 1,000 pounds of gear for a year's worth of searching, and this stuff had to be moved in some pretty tough terrain. So there were some fortunes made doing this. Now, I couldn't find a picture of Joe Brooks himself, but Joe Brooks was a mule handler, had a lot of pack mules. Very successful packer. He bought mules from miners for next to nothing, miners that had given up. He ended up owning 335 mules and raked in $5,000 a day hauling gear. If you could man haul stuff as well, the going price was 50 cents a pound for hired haulers, but if they got a better deal, they were just as likely to drop whatever they were carrying of yours and pick the other guys up for more money. So you've got to take a risk. Now, then you get to some real entrepreneurs too. This is what is called the Chilkoot Pass. This is the very top of the Chilkoot Pass. Several men chopped 1,500 steps into the hard-packed snow and then collected so much in tolls that the route was dubbed the Golden Stairs. So there you go. A lot of fun that looks like. For movement down rivers, there were an assortment of what were referred to as floating coffins for the miners' convenience. This is one of them. One particularly dangerous stretch was a place called Miles Canyon. It cost $100 a trip just to make it through the canyon. Jack London, later the author of numerous books, including Call of the Wild, reported making $3,000 in just 1 month. However, the person who may have done better than anybody was Linda Mulrooney. Linda Mulrooney arrived with $5,000 worth of cotton clothing, hot water bottles, which she ended up selling for $30,000. Now, she had a partner, and this is them. His name was Big Alex. Big Alex, though, well, through a long series of events, ended up stealing everything from her while she was away on a business trip and set up his own mining operation. Now, he left her only with a few cases of whiskey and a large number of rubber boots. She swore revenge. Her exact words were, "You're going to pay for the nose." Well, when the spring thaw came, the goldfields turned into one giant big mud puddle. And Big Alex needed boots for his men, and the only source of rubber boots was Miss Mulrooney. And she sold him all the boots he wanted to buy for $100 a pair. So Miss Mulrooney did fairly well. She went on to become the only woman manager of a mining company in the territory, and it also happened to be the biggest. Well, that's all for this week. Let's let you know what's coming up next week. We will take a look at this young fellow and a duel that he was involved in. Thank you for your time. Carl Lanning, Brazos River Charter School, and we look forward to seeing you right here next week.